Boston, May 22nd, 1988. For more than 10 days, the valiant Atlanta Hawks had been giving the mighty Boston Celtics a run for their money. But that night of Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, the moment of truth had arrived.
On the sideline, Bird is open. Do they want him to take that shot? The Hawks bust out. 3-on-1. Dominate.
Who said Boston would cruise past the Hawks? This game was simply one of the most dazzling of the decade. A true showdown between two of the greatest showmen of the Eastern Conference, Larry Bird and Dominique Wilkins. The result? A historic 47 points for Wilkins, 34 for Bird. But in the 1980s, Boston was an unstoppable force. By a mere 2 points, the Celtics escaped the Hawks' trap. This epic battle remained etched in everyone's memory. 20 years later, almost to the day, two headliners of the Eastern Conference were about to offer a new legendary duel.
Larry Bird's not walking through that door, fans. Kevin McHale's not walking through that door, and Robert Parrish is not walking through that door.
Once a Celtic, always a Celtic. That's how Auerbach ran this franchise. But in the long run, that sense of family and commitment may have hurt this organization.
By the mid-90s, the big names of Boston's dynasty had retired from the court. The Boston Celtics, a franchise that had always won everything, suddenly found themselves at rock bottom. A paradox of the 90s, a decade that saw the NBA become a global phenomenon. But while Michael Jordan was exploding in popularity, the league's most successful franchise was sinking deeper and deeper. To some, it almost seemed like the Celtics were cursed. In 1986, as the Celtics sat atop the NBA, they had the chance to draft the prodigy Len Bias with a high pick. Except that on the night of his draft, the young player tragically died of a cocaine overdose. The following year, the team acquired Reggie Lewis. As Larry Bird retired, Lewis was selected for the All-Star game and became team captain. But the curse struck again.
Tomorrow night, Celtics will retire number 35 of Reggie Lewis, whose death in July of 1993 has raised a multitude of questions in recent days. On March 9th, the Wall Street Journal raised the possibility that cocaine use contributed to Lewis's death from heart failure.
In 1998, like every season before it, the Celtics finished at the bottom of the NBA. For years, Boston had been searching for a young player to lead a new project. That's when the 1998 draft arrived.
With the 10th pick in the 1998 NBA draft, the Boston Celtics select Paul Pierce from the University of Kansas.
Paul Pierce sitting in the green room back there a little longer than a lot of folks thought he would be.
Don't make it a disappointment because this is a great scenario for you and they're happy to have you.
Oh, definitely. You know, I think Boston's a great situation. A lot of good players around him, Antoine Walker, Ron Mercer. With me there, Kenny Anderson, I feel like, this is a playoff team and, we can really build.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was projected to be like a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to Vancouver number 2. And like
Thank God.
2 or 3 of the guys in the top 10 I never even heard of. I remember saying, like, you know what? There's going to be 9 other teams that's going to regret not picking me.
It was a brilliant performance. Pierce slashes and out. Pierce on the baseline. Guards going up, down to Pierce.
A child of 1980s Los Angeles, Paul Pierce grew up with a deep-seated hatred for the Celtics. But fate had its twists. Despite being one of the top college players, Pierce was overlooked by the first teams in the 1998 draft. Lucky for Boston, who snagged him with the 10th pick. Pierce proved himself and unleashed his passion on the court. But his rookie season didn't make him Massachusetts' savior. Once again, Boston couldn't achieve much on the court.
In college, I probably lost a total of, 11 games at most. And then I come to the Celtics, and in my first 3 weeks, we go on a 9-game losing streak. And I'm like, man, this is tough.
Next step is the biggest jump that we have to make, and to get back to that championship level that we all want.
Things were bleak in Boston. Almost 10 years after Paul Pierce's arrival, the team had never been a real title contender. Worse, the year 2007 was one of the worst in the franchise's history. When Danny Ainge took the reins, it took him just weeks to start making big moves.
Yeah, this proposed trade has been agreed to and will occur. Seattle will send Ray Allen to Boston for the number 5 pick.
This is a blockbuster trade. It's been talked about for years. KG no longer a Wolf. He's going to the Boston Celtics.
On this trade, I love it. I just think it gives us a chance. It gives us hope. That's what we want. You know, from low expectations to high expectations, that's what we want.
The tradition here is so great, and it's one of the best in sports. And I just look forward to that.
I thought this was probably my best opportunity in winning the ring. So I took the big steps to make those adjustments, and here we are.
All three of us were on teams where we were the Lone Star, made the All-Star team, but didn't scratch the playoff.
Him, Ray Allen, a sharpshooter and 7-time All-Star. Frustrated by the Supersonics' move to Oklahoma, Allen packed his bags for Boston. Him, Kevin Garnett, one of the greatest competitors in NBA history. After 12 fruitless seasons in Minnesota, the power forward arrived in Boston with a bang. Then, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, 3 superstars at the twilight of their careers, all with one goal: to not end their journeys without a championship.
They're awesome. KG, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, that's all you need. Championship to come.
Listen, here's what the Celtics have decided. The youth movement is over. We've got a 2 or 3 year window. We're going for it.
Garnett faces up on Hayward, takes a little fall away. Got deflected by Eddie Howe, kicked off by Pierce. Ray Allen for the game. Got it at the buzzer.
Ray Allen, one of the great shooters in the NBA.
Allen for 3.
From 15th place to 1st place. One of the greatest turnarounds in history. Boston dominated the NBA and entered the playoffs brimming with confidence. But nothing comes easy. Atlanta pushed the Celtics to 7 games in the first round. Next up, the Cleveland Cavaliers of a certain LeBron James. The story began in 2003 when the Ohio prodigy LeBron James joined his home state's Cavaliers. Never before had a high school player generated such a buzz. The basketball world wondered, were we expecting too much from the teenage LeBron James?
I've heard some people say he's ready for the NBA now. Is he?
Well, I don't know if he's ready for the NBA now.
The Cavaliers had landed the #1 pick in the draft. That was like Christmas for a lot of Cavalier fans because they knew the best talent coming out. They saw LeBron play high school basketball the previous 4 years. The legend was already established. So everybody knew that the Cavaliers would use that first pick to take LeBron. So that was absolutely a great sign of exhilaration for Cavalier fans.
Here's the upside. Akron, where you grew up, is a short drive from Cleveland. You're with the hometown team. Here's the downside. The hometown team was 17-65 last year. That's why they're in the lottery, and that's why they're going to get you.
And that's why I say I can make an instant impact, because I don't think you can get any worse from the kind of season they had last year. But I think my competitive drive and my willingness to win is going to make them a lot better.
I think we all knew he was going to be a good NBA basketball player, but we still had some reservations because very few had gone right from high school to the pros, so there was some trepidation in your minds. You know, were we seeing the real thing? what he had done so much head and shoulders above the rest of the talent that he took on in the high school ranks, would that translate to the next level, to the NBA, skipping college entirely? And the first game, again, his first contest as an NBA player was phenomenal. And so you just saw right from the jump that LeBron was going to become one of the best players to ever play the game.
It's not about myself. It's just about how well as a team we can grow as a family and just get better every single day. Because the other teams out there is getting better every day. And if we take one step backwards, we're going to end up like we was this year. And we don't want that to happen again.
LeBron had a mission: to carry the hopes of Ohio on his shoulders. Despite a mediocre roster, the King alone led the Cavaliers to rise in the Eastern Conference. In 2007, LeBron even took his team to the NBA Finals, but far too limited, Cleveland fell 4-0 to the San Antonio Spurs.
In the 06/07 year, they didn't really have that great of a roster. The Cavaliers were happy that they got to the finals. I think they, in their heart of hearts, had to know, going up against San Antonio, with the pedigree that San Antonio basketball had already established, that it would be real difficult for them to do any kind of damage in the series. And yeah, you'd like to have seen them win a game, but they were swept, and San Antonio 100% earned their NBA championship that year. And the Cavaliers came away thinking, okay, now they need more pieces, parts around LeBron.
What are your expectations for the Cleveland Cavaliers this year?
Well, my expectations is always going to be high. Just because how I feel as an individual, I feel like I continue to get better every year. I continue to bust my butt in off season to get ready for a season to go into June. So I look forward to us competing for an NBA championship this year.
You in the NBA Finals, already competing for an NBA World Championship.
We want to win it. We want to win it. I want to win it. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get our guys prepared to go out there and win it.
Around one opposite. Weaves inside. Scores! The lob for LeBron. And Burn. Good clock awareness by Devin. Here comes LeBron. Sails in. On the break. Game
Back to Boston on the night of May 6, 2008. On one side, the legendary Boston Celtics, chasing a title that had eluded them for over 20 years. On the other, the Cleveland Cavaliers, with a far less shiny history. But LeBron James, the chosen one, wasn't willing to wait before tasting the NBA Finals again.
LeBron spinning, jumping backwards to the baseline. Very tough shot, no good. Rebound Rondo.
Game 1 of the series was reminiscent of the 90s. Tight, gritty, and physical. Boston eked out a 4-point win. 2 days later, Cleveland's roster deficiencies were exposed. The Celtics easily dominated the Cavaliers, who were clearly outmatched.
That's what we try to do. Look at their team. LeBron is what makes them go. And if we can somehow control him, we control their team. And with the help of the guys around me, we've been able to do that.
But wait a minute. Underdogs or not, LeBron James never gives up. Against all odds, Cleveland fought back and tied the series at 2 games apiece. Everything was back to square one for the Celtics.
But we will make adjustments and try to turn this thing around.
A LeBron James team is never desperate.
These 2 home victories awakened the monster within LeBron James. Despite the Kings' 35 points, Cleveland narrowly lost Game 5. The Celtics needed just one more win to advance, but James wasn't having it. He dropped 32 points and 12 assists to force a Game 7 that felt like a final.
I make sure my troops are ready for this Game 7, and we know we can win. We know we can win.
It's a sudden death game. Whoever wins advances. Whoever loses, watch the rest of the playoffs from their living room couch.
May 18th, 2008 was no ordinary night for the Boston Celtics. The stakes couldn't have been higher. If they lost Game 7, the Celtics' entire project would fall apart. This dream super team would turn into a nightmare. Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and especially Paul Pierce would carry the stigma of being losers.
Before the game, I said, how disappointed would it be for us, to go home this early after all the expectations.
Facing King LeBron James was the truth, Paul Pierce, and thus began one of the decade's greatest duels. The Cavaliers knew that Boston's three-headed dragon could breathe fire, but who was going to take responsibility that night? Paul Pierce.
Pierce up makes the three, steps to 17 feet, jumper switch. You want Paul Pierce to throw it up right there. James on the drive, Posey stays with him. Oh, pretty shot, LeBron.
Shootout between these two guys.
Pierce again splits the track, drives right down the middle, scoops to the left.
Carter Pierce going at it, they're talking to each other. I love it, this is what it's about.
Throughout the game, LeBron and Pierce were inseparable. Both players entered the zone simultaneously, closing in on 40 points each. The game was so intense that it came down to the final minute. With 15 seconds to play, Cleveland trailed by 6 points. A magical pass from LeBron cut the gap to a single possession. Then, at the free throw line, Paul Pierce surpassed 40 points to seal the victory for his team. It was over. By a mere 5 points, Boston emerged victorious in a game that was an instant classic.
To the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2002. At the Garden, Game 7 is history in every way there is.
How about Paul Pierce? Magnificent with 41 points. The longtime Celtic coming through it.
He just willed his team to victory. This is a breakout game I know he's been waiting for, and he definitely came through for him.
Tonight was basically get the ball to Paul Pierce, get the hell out the way.
Kind of expected the game to be like this. Two, like Kevin said, two heavyweights going at it, throwing body blows. You've got a great player like LeBron. Anything can happen in the Game 7. He could be special, and he was. But fortunately for him, I was able to be special that day, too.
How were you feeling at that particular moment when you guys had lost in the playoffs to the Boston Celtics?
But I'm like, I didn't want the season to end this way. Being that close to beating them and being able to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, it was like, one or two more plays could have prevailed us to get to that next step, and we didn't make the play.
Exactly 20 years after Larry Bird and Dominic Wilkins, Paul Pierce and LeBron James had delivered another epic battle. LeBron scored 45 points, Paul Pierce 41. A thrilling game from start to finish that remained etched in everyone's memory. LeBron reflected, "Like Wilkins, I fell short and the Celtics won. I think fans now have the opportunity to forget Bird and Wilkins a little and remember Paul and LeBron. This will go down in history." A month later, Boston wrote a new chapter of NBA history. The Celtics' Big Three completed their mission, finally bringing a new title to the city. It would be the only ring the trio won, a disappointment to some. Disappointment? That word lingered around LeBron James for a long time. Tired of the lack of talent in Cleveland, the King left for Miami with a bang in 2010. His first season in Florida, a crushing finals loss to Dallas. But the following year, LeBron delivered one of the best games of his career. 45 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. Against who? The Boston Celtics.
Somebody I've had a lot of battles with, somebody I've always respected, and competed against, and pushed me in the Eastern Conference, for quite a while.
No one has had more playoff battles and more meaningful games than me and LeBron.
LeBron James and Paul Pierce remain, to this day, two of the NBA's greatest rivals. On May 18th, 2008, these basketball titans gave us a magical moment forever engraved in memory. Unfortunately for the King, in 2008, the truth lay in Boston.